So in the last, probably 4 days, between the last 4 days, we've had 2 live disputes on we recorded or rather streamed our perspective, though we were going into these guys' shows and streams. And there are people that they don't understand it. Like why I would even do something like that. I mean, and this isn't to most of the audience. I think to most of the audience, they certainly know. But there's these kind of outliers that I think don't look at it from the perspective of not necessarily a content creator, but what's actually taking place, right? Because they don't know like the meat and potatoes, or they don't see it. So I am an interactive person. I think that's just who it is that I am. I am not one of those guys that likes in the YouTube space to be on some like YouTube beef. I think that is the most retarded shit ever. Like when I see people, and people do this and that's their business, but people will, I'm going to talk about you on my channel. The other person's going to talk about them on their channel, and they'll send tweets back and forth, and it's all like a fucking charade for the audience. I'm not necessarily interested in that, which is why you rarely see me do that. What I would rather do is, if there's some sort of, because we're in the same space, if there's some sort of discussion to be had, I would rather just have the live discussion and just talk it out. Now, it's also important to keep in mind that I'm never the initiator of this shit, right? For the most part. Now, that's not to say that I haven't reacted to a video or something. Nah, but when it comes to like some sort of, YouTube guy doesn't like my approach to something, got something to say to me, it's always in a sense of they initiated the conflict. They initiated the conflict. And I'm like the response agency. That's it. Because I don't go around doing that. Like the people that, for example, we had discussions with are people that had issue with me, not the other way around. I don't watch their content. I don't read their fucking tweets. I don't follow them, and I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? So with that being said, what's the point? Well, here's the first and the obvious thing. The monetize your hater streams are among my biggest streams. They get more viewership than my regular shows, and that's just what it is, okay? The numbers are obviously that. We had what, like 3,000 people that were here, concurrent viewers that were here on that one stream that we did yesterday. You know, so that's just what it is. They love to see me talk to people, and I will talk to people, be it a lot of the monetized streams are done with folks that don't have channels. Right? We're talking to just regular people that were in the comment section or something and called me dumb, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. A little weird that you use such terminology, but I'm gonna give you a chance to come on the show and defend yourself. And often these guys sound like complete retards. So that's the first and that's the biggest thing, right? Like it's to act like there's no benefit to me doing the shit is it's false. Because like I said, those are among the biggest streams that I have. And I think even if you combine those two streams, we made $3,000. We made $3,000 off the damn streams, man. Just 2 of them. So it's like, you know, say what you will, but people like to see me engage with those folks in that regards. So that's number one benefit. And I'm completely aware of that. And you need to be completely aware of that. But also, I want to dispel of this myth that all publicity is good publicity. I hate when people say that, and it's something that is it's obnoxiously just false. It's a false statement that all publicity is good publicity, because this is how they look at it, right? And I will give you this part, that we're dealing with bottom feeders. Okay, so I give you that we are dealing with bottom feeders that are, for whatever reason, there's folks that look at me and they look at my content. There's like a sector of the internet that's like, I want to take this guy down. I don't like him. And if they even can't, let's say, whatever it is that I'm saying, they don't like the way that I said it or whatever dumb shit. But they don't like that I'm in the position of basically having we have 450,000 subs, followers on multiple platforms, people that are stoked for the future ventures that it is that we have. I know it may be weird for you guys to see, but there's a sector of the internet that does not like that or like me. And again, this is some shit that I didn't initiate. This ain't about mere disagreements or anything like that. I'm saying they genuinely don't like me. That's fine. So some people look at it like, well, these are people. Like we talk about the two people that we had the conversations with on stream and other different streams. Like, okay, well, they had channels that were doing X amount of success, and now their channels have basically fallen off a cliff. And he's saying, or some people would say, well, they're trying to use you for the sake of getting some success or whatnot. And while I can empathize with that argument, if that's what it is that they believe, they can believe that all they want. But the reality is still the reality. And like I've said, if you enter into a space, definitely for people that may be on kind of a outside perspective, and maybe they follow you, maybe they follow me, and you go into it and make yourself to be a fucking retard live in front of all these people to see. If you think that there's going to be zero ramifications from that, whether you are the person that has that channel or you are the person that thinks that, well, there's no, they're looking for this and there's no loss for them, I'm sorry, but that's stupid. We can even talk about the guy that I had on the first day, or that first in the last 4 days. That last Friday when we had that live discussion. I go on this guy's show, 7 other guys, and he's even when I'm backstage in the StreamYard, he says something along the lines of, "I'm gonna send you a dead body." So, this is a guy coming in thinking he was going to do something special. And then he does that. And if you look at his social blade, this guy has lost subscribers from that day. He lost them. Like, he has a net negative in terms of subscriptions. Now, while maybe in that stream, there are going to be people that go, all right, from maybe my audience, and they go over there to see what that perspective is, or they even make fun of him. And maybe they see an increase. Like I've said, that guy's viewership on that video is going to be the most that he's had probably ever. Well, I won't say ever. Let's say that he's going to get, in a very, very long time, unless he gets a blessing from the algorithm, because it ain't going to be from the audience. That's just what it is. He's going to get that initial viewership, but in the long term, that he lost. So many people had unsubscribed from that man because he made himself look like a jackass. The fat guy is who I'm referring to. And he made himself look like a complete jackass. So it was net negative for him. So even if he is reaching, even if he's trying to, I'm trying to use him for success, it doesn't work that way. You can't. And maybe that's some ignorance on his behalf. And again, the people that would think that, well, they only have to gain from it because they don't understand. And if they don't understand, they don't understand. But I'm just saying, as I always say, objectively speaking, meaning that this isn't up for dispute. He lost. Somebody sent me a screenshot of the people that were in his room, and all these catching L's and all this. Like, dude, he lost. So Eggman lost, period. So don't look at it with the engagement like, well, they only have to gain. No, they have to lose. Even if they're losing, they have to lose. And they lost. Now, I'm not one of those that's gonna, we do our monetize your haters. We kind of do them in spurts. It's funny, like that debate seemed to be why the other debate happened, right? It was almost like, well, I can't take them down. And someone looked at that from the other person, looked at it from that outside perspective and thinks, well, I can take them down. because he had nerve to think that the other guy did a good job. And same thing, you know, just like, oh man, I had to unsubscribe from this guy, and because holy shit, you know, it was kind of a big circular argument. It seemed like a lot of contrarianism that was involved in that. Some people say this, and some people are like, well, you know, because of he couldn't nail you on this, he just started just full blown being a contrarian. But he said he was trolling, and it reminds me of that meme, that JoJo meme, where he says, next you'll say I was pretending to be retarded. No. You don't get to do that. If you were making some, you know, you going into it with different perspective and maybe it didn't go down the way that you thought, you don't get to be like, oh, well, I was just trolling. No. Nah. Like next you'll say you were pretending to be retarded. Nah. So that doesn't work like that. So I get really the only person that has to gain from this is me. I like that seriously, because I'm not going to be outwit by these guys, especially in the perspective of comic books. I'm not going to be outwit by any of these fucking guys. It just can't happen. On topics that I speak about all the time, it just simply cannot happen, right? But, you know, some people will be contrarians just for the sake of being it. And yeah, it was a large like I wouldn't advise anybody to just sit there and watch the full 4 hours unless you just are doing something and you play it in the background. But I wouldn't expect anybody to be engaged and watch it after the fact. I think it was something that if you were live, kind of being engaging and watching, like that's one thing. But, you know, the whole argument of semantics and I'll summarize it like this. For those of you that, you know, because I don't want you to waste your time. So the argument started with Ryan. It was the recent debate, by the way. The argument, same thing. Guy takes issue with what Ryan said, sees that I do a tweet that references a video that says the statement's mild. They take issue with this and all these people and trying to justify why people are reacting in the way that they are. All right, so we got past that point because I'm like, you know, this is why it's dumb. This is why I would not give anybody the benefit of the doubt for not clicking the video because the tweet specifically referenced the video. So that person that's unreasonable, that tries to draw some obnoxious, retarded conclusion from that, or operates from the stance of, well, this was like racist. I'm not accepting those terms. I reject the premise altogether. And I won't say, well, just because they tricked themselves, they're a reasonable person, which is what he was basically trying to suggest. Like, well, it's a logical conclusion, or rather it's reasonable for this person to think this, and that. It's like, no, it's not. And just because they tricked themselves into having a dumbass conclusion, that's on them. And I'm not giving them any slack for that. But then it moved to the whole tokenization thing because, I think it was more contrarianism. He just wanted to find something he disagreed with. We're talking about the like etymology of the term and all types of shit. When I've said, look, dude, I've defined this word multiple times. I have a video, and it's literally called, and you can see it. I mean, it has moving pictures, animated stuff that my team came up with. It was beautifully done. So for the people that have short attention spans, can't really retain information, they can go look at this video. And it's called Tokenism and Tokenization Explained. Yep. You can go watch that if you like. It's right here. I literally have a section right there.
And the issues that stem from it.
I define it.
Going back and forth.
I define it right there. You can go see it. We call this. So I don't ever use this term loosely. So y'all should go check that video out. But I define it directly all the time. But he wanted to argue semantics. Well, that's not what it means. And I'm like, all right, I don't care to argue that. But then he ultimately accepts what it is that we're talking about. And then it went on to some debate about, hilariously enough, that man thought that it is easier for someone to create an original character and see success than it is to have a race swapped or a tokenized character as a base. And he tried to justify that by saying, I mean, it took him a while to get there, but he says the declining sales of, let's say, we talked about Miles Morales. He says the declining sales are representative of that. Now, of course, I say, well, original comic books, you go get a encyclopedia from Marvel and DC. They have mountains of original characters that never caught on, that have had their own series. They'll never see the success, and it's an uphill battle of a tokenized character, and that's just plain and simple. So I say that it is far more difficult and requires more creativity to have that original character catch on in comparison to the tokenized character. Well, he's under some logic that that's not true, and in fact, it's the other way around. The thing, though, I'm pointing to an objective metric, sales, that show that. An objective metric that is not up for dispute. I can look at the sales, right? Look at the sales, and those sales will show that tokenized character, I talked about Miles Morales. Nobody knew anything about this character. He only appeared one time before in one book, and then he immediately appears in Ultimate Spider-Man, the reboot of Ultimate Spider-Man. And it had initial sales. And I say that will never happen with an original character. And he was stuck on, well, there would never be a plummet, and that somehow made his point. But ultimately, his point about there was a burden, some sort of burden that they have to live to because of the original characters exist, and that's why it's difficult. He couldn't prove that he couldn't reference the sales and how they actually proved that, or the decline proves that. He couldn't do that. Not at all. He's just saying that, well, because of decline and people did reviews, which I say you can't quantify that like you can sales. I can see a number and see one's higher than the other. When you talk about quantifying a bunch of articles and opinions and stuff, you'd have to show me on aggregate, or rather show me like at all of them compiled that the vast majority of them said that they were negative. I don't think he could do that, because I remember vividly when Miles Morales came out, these big publications and all that couldn't stop shilling for this character, despite him not necessarily catching on. Okay, so I'm looking at the objective sales. That's all I need to make, but he couldn't prove that those sales proved that that's because of the lack thereof, if they decline, were because of the burden as opposed to something else, right? Because again, we can see both characters, original character, him, I use silencer. You got original character, superhero comic character. You have a tokenized character, and they'll never see that initial burst. And even upon the failures of Miles Morales in the books, they can reboot him and he'll see initial stuff. They always give it the time of day. Why? Because it's Spider-Man. Because the tokenized character has a built-in audience, and that is the benefit that original character will never see. So that's a summarizing of that. And people that watch me, and any really rational person knows this, it's far more difficult for a creative to come up with an original character to catch on, as opposed to, I don't know, using another one that already, like, you know, race swap or has an identifiable name. You can use that really with any brand for that matter. Like if it wasn't attached to this brand, it's going to see a lot more difficulty in order to have it catch on. So my metric of success is looking at the numbers. Even if you can't look at it from issue 1, you can go 2, 3, 4, 5. And people giving that the benefit of the doubt because it says Spider-Man on it. The original characters don't have such a thing. So that was the point of that one. Save you some time there, just a quick rundown. But either way, it was very circular, very semantical, and it was like, this is why I said it was weaseling, because I really questioned this guy's comic book knowledge. Especially there was an instance where you said, I said, which other Batman are you talking about? And I don't believe he's actually knowledgeable at all, to be honest, on comic book characters. But, you know, definitely when he was like, why would we talk about reboots? That was weird. I'm like, we're talking about comic books. Why on earth would we talk about sustained success and not talk about multiple series? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But either way, that was a summarizing. Now, again, I'm the only one that has to gain from this. Like, as far as, like, be it financially or channel-wise. Maybe for their own ego, maybe someone has to gain because maybe get off on it. They got some weird fetish of just arguing. Maybe that's what it is. But, like, when we talk about the shit that actually matters, I'm the only one that had to gain from that. So understand that's why I have no problem I'll engage with people with small followings, no followings. You've seen that. Monetize your haters. Just go look at the playlist. But this whole, I gotta dispel this myth of, well, they're just trying to use you for success. You shouldn't do that. Like, they could try to use me all they want, but if they lose, they lose. And we have, again, objective metrics that we can look at that shows that both of those guys, for that matter, not all of it's pertaining to me. I think with the Jody, you see I haven't looked at the other guy's Social Blade, the one we debated yesterday, Social Blade, like going into the next day, and really I don't think we'll get those numbers until tomorrow, later tomorrow. And with the other guy, though, we already see the numbers, and he declined. He lost subscribers. So he lost. So I'm gonna try to use this guy to get back in the pop topic of conversation and get people engaged and all of it. If that was what they were trying to do, they lost. They lost. All publicity ain't good publicity. Someone could have respect for someone. I think there was plenty of people that did that for whatever reason. Y'all like the Eggman's content. But they saw the Eggman's content, and then the Eggman entered into that conversation that he was not equipped for. And he lost subscribers because of it. That's what happens. All publicity is not good publicity. But I engage because it's a financial incentive. The audience has said they love this type of shit. Now, I pick and choose. I'm not just going to be doing this shit just for the sake of doing it. And most of the time, I'm not going to do it with YouTubers like this. Again, it's what it is what it is, right? Because these people, for the most part, and I end on this note, I just want to reiterate, they initiate the conflict. It's not me. Like, I didn't reach out to the guy we had the conversation with yesterday. I didn't reach out to him. He reached out to me. He wanted to discuss this with me and the other guy. So, it was one of those where, I did that video and he's like, pull up on him. So I was like, all right, cool. Let's do it. But either way, when I say they initiate it, I'm saying they're the ones that take issue with something that I do and then want to talk about it and argue about it. It's not the other way around, because I don't watch their shit. I don't subscribe to their channels. I don't give a fuck about any of those weirdos. And because they can't outwit me, number one, and because I only speak about things I objectively know, I'm smart on. I can't lose in this regardless. So stop saying, oh, well, all publicity is good publicity. Like, shut up. That doesn't even make fucking sense.
You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.